Mira Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more.
Mira Business FM, this is the morning drive. Welcome, day 2 of Ramadan 2026. It's the holy month, and gold prices remain significantly elevated. Many in the UAE are preparing, not just spiritually, but financially, for their annual Zakat obligations. Now, with the value of gold nearly doubling compared with early 2025, calculating what you owe has perhaps become more important, potentially more costly as well for Muslim savers and investors. So today we're joined once again by Islamic economics and finance professional, Dr. Adnan Aziz, to break down exactly how Zakat on gold is calculated here in the UAE, what the rising bullion market means for your Zakat bill, and how you can ensure you're fulfilling what is a key pillar of Islam correctly and confidently. That's where we want to go. Dr. Adnan, always a pleasure to see you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me over once again.
You're very welcome. It's good to have you back. Can I start actually simply? I'm talking about Zakat there as though everybody listening or watching this immediately knows what I'm talking about. And I guess we should start there. What exactly is Zakat and who has to pay it?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, indeed, it's something to start with. We need to understand exactly. Many of us know what have been hearing about it, but zakat is simply, zakat for Muslims is actually one of the 5 pillars, obligatory pillars of Islam, and the zakat is a financial mechanism. In fact, there is a common misunderstanding. People look at it, or many people think it's a charity. It is not. It is actually.
But that's interesting because if somebody said to me, what is zakat, I would say it's a certain amount and it's like a charity donation, but that's not how it is.
It's not. So it is clearly, the zakat is actually a structured system of wealth circulation. Okay. It is obligatory.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is obligatory because that is the intent to be achieved. Essentially what it means is that every year, and this is lunar year, every lunar year at certain point in time, and I'll explain that because there's another misunderstanding as well that we think of Ramadan being that point in time, which is not. It is about individual. It differs from one individual to another. But if a Muslim has held certain threshold of wealth for 1 year, 1 lunar year, from the time he had it up to the time when that lunar year completes, on that date, like a balance sheet item, you check on that date what is that amount of wealth you have, and if it meets the threshold or goes beyond, then you pay a certain percentage of it as to certain defined beneficiaries. There are 8 defined beneficiaries.
Okay.
To whom it goes, and I'll come back to it perhaps a bit later in more detail. But it's 2.5%, but what we also don't necessarily hear as commonly, there is another figure which is 10%. Okay. Now that 10% is not about that type of wealth which typically we come across. This is more about agriculture produce. So the farmers who normally have agriculture produce, for them it is 10% of their wealth, the produce itself, and that is called ushr. So zakat and ushr is the other term which we don't normally hear about. But yes, this is what it is. Okay. So it covers that, and it is, as I said, and the threshold perhaps maybe worth mentioning here. The threshold is with reference to gold. Normally, what we hear, but it doesn't have to be gold. In fact, it is either gold or silver. So silver is another threshold as well. Okay. So gold, 85 grams roughly of the gold, equal to that of wealth, or about 595 grams of silver. So that is what is the threshold, which is what we refer to. What it applies to is cash. It applies to gold. It applies to silver. It applies to your business assets, your investments, and so on and so forth. All of that has to be looked at. Maybe we can talk about a bit later about how to calculate it, but that's essentially what it is. But what it does not apply to is the home we live in.
Okay.
So that's also an asset. That's part of the wealth.
Sure.
But that is not zakatable. The car we use, that is not zakatable, or personal items used for personal use, basically various
So it's over and above.
over and above
Like
that.
items that you would use day to day, that
So they are
your
not
daily
even,
living.
yeah, they are not counted towards calculation of zakat. They are not.
Okay.
So it is above that is what we look at from threshold perspective.
So the idea, therefore, I guess, if I can extrapolate from that, is that, this is a way that you can utilize your assets to help other people without impacting your daily life. When you get to a point where you can feasibly offer something to help
Correct.
somebody else,
Correct.
that's the...
Correct.
Right, okay, I'm with you. Why are gold and silver used as the standard?
Historically, these have been the store of value, the way to measure the value. So this has always been the case. Silver and gold coins used to be the standard before, and they are also sort of inflation resistant. So they have been, because we see even today, the market moves differently.
Yes.
So they are kind of a benchmark. Hence why they have been used historically as the reference point, because these are the stable source of store of value, for that matter.
Okay.
But what is also important here that I think what people get confused about is that gold and silver do not, when the one we use is not in its purest form. You have the purity varies. It could be 18 karat, 22 karat, 24 carats. Even in 24 carats, you don't have 100% purity, is 99.9% purity. So when it comes to the calculation of zakat and gold and silver being standard, we have to, the formula is basically you take whatever weight of the gold or the silver you have, multiply it with the purity level it has, and then multiply it with the current going market rate.
Okay.
That is how you will be able to calculate it then.
I'm with you.
But another point to make here is that jewelry, especially women, they have a lot of jewelry, and sometimes there is a difference of contemporary scholars' opinion on that should that be zakatable or not. I would say within the UAE context, what we have seen, it's safer to just assume that is zakatable as well, rather than getting into those debates.
It's an interesting debate, that, because I'm thinking as you're saying that, for an item to be zakatable, as it were, it should be an item that's looked upon as an investment rather than, a car that you use daily, a house that you live in, etc. And I guess in, personal jewelry is viewed as an investment by most people. So I can see where the conundrum is there.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is exactly what the scholars who have that opinion take that view as well.
Right.
When I was saying to you, zakat is not a charity, but also, and it's a system. I tell you one thing which many people just don't realize or don't think as deeply as they should, is that one of the purposes of zakat is to make sure that there aren't zakat recipients, there are decreasing number of zakat recipients every year.
Okay.
Which is when I was saying it's not simply a charity. Now, if you're giving a charity to someone, there are defined categories of zakat recipients, actually 8. Poor, which are actually destitute, very poor.
Yeah.
They are really, really in need of that. But then there could be needy. Needy are not poor or destitute, but they don't have sufficient income. Okay, then there could be those who are in debt. So they cannot pay the debt, and it is mounting on them. And reasonableness on that as well, because I am under debt as well, but this is my choice. It's different.
Yeah.
So, and then there are other categories as well. In fact, amongst one good category is about those in the cause of Allah, and that in the cause of Allah is actually about it can include a lot of categories, including, for example, early childhood development, which is key to any economic growth, right? So you want to focus on their health, their education, your nutrition, you name it, okay? So those are all sort of categories which would come in. What I want to emphasize, which is what I said people don't necessarily realize, is that if I have to pay zakat, as you rightly mentioned, it is on investment, right? I mean, it is related to investment. What is important? If I have certain cash sitting with me, I will pay zakat on it. And imagine, in theory, if I continue to have sitting on zakat, then every year it will deplete. At some point in time, it will end.
In theory, yeah.
In theory, right?
Yeah.
Now, and with the 2.5%, you multiply it, and you with a certain number of foreseeable future, you will end it. But the encouragement is not to pay zakat. It's not to pay. It's not about paying zakat. It is to incentivize that you don't pay zakat, because natural psyche. If I have some wealth, I don't want it to deplete. I would like to preserve it. So the mechanism to preserve is to actually have this system of zakat, which incentivizes me not to pay zakat, i.e., if I invest this money, if I have $100 with me, I will be paying 2.5% on it. But if I have $100 with me and I invest that $100, then I don't pay zakat on 100. I pay on what I earn on 100.
I see. Okay.
That is how it gets into circulation. So encouragement is circulate this. This is actually, that's why I was saying, to not treat it as zakat, as charity. It is supposed to be a structured system of circulation of wealth.
And a structured system of circulation of wealth within a system that is growing economically.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. See, that's the distinction that I'd never thought about. I've thought about, so I'm aware of zakat and I'm aware of the percentages, and I perhaps ignorantly just assumed that it was 2.5% of where you were at that point in time, whether it was in Ramadan, whenever you decided to pay it. I think just Ramadan things come into focus maybe a little bit more, so hence the conversation,
Yeah, the Ramadan part is actually that, so as I said, if it's at any point in time when I do the calculation, I would pay, and from that point to next year, that point, it becomes my lunar year. So I should be looking at the lunar year.
Okay.
Now, because many people just don't keep a track of it as well as they should. So they have chosen, in practice, they choose Ramadan as that lunar year, start of that lunar year, and they choose a date on that, and then they would calculate every year in Ramadan. So we mistakenly assume it to be that it is only to be done during Ramadan. It can be done any time of the year. But another point is, people are also smart. Every one of us is smart. So we want to have while it is a redistribution system and it's obligatory, but the good thing is that when it comes to us meeting this obligation as part of the faith, God also tells us that I will reward you for that in the hereafter.
Okay.
Although it is your obligation, this is a wealth I gave to you, so it is not yours. You are here for some time. You're using, and I'm asking you to give part of it to some other people I haven't given, and make a system which grows and helps sustain the economy. But at the same time, I'll reward you. But in Ramadan, our rewards are multiplied. So we were playing smart with God here. So we choose Ramadan, so we have a reward which is multiplied.
There's nothing like an incentive sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's interesting. See, I'm learning here. Let me ask you this, though, because, for some people, their financial affairs will be convoluted. Not that straightforward. Lots of investments, gold, bullion, there may be stocks, shares, all kinds of things. What kinds of common mistakes do people make when they make their calculations?
It's a good question. The first common mistake is forgetting that it's lunar year, which I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The other common mistake is that when valuing the assets, they think of the purchase price.
Right.
Whereas it should be the market value as of that time.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
Similarly, the gold and silver, if I bought it at X price a year ago, and you mentioned earlier, in your introduction and with reference to the news as well. So now the prices have increased. So we have to look at what is the value today, not what I bought it for.
Well, that's kind of the reason for this story, because the gold and silver price has been a story for a year.
Yeah, absolutely. But that also, look, it means that those who have the threshold income, wealth, they would be paying higher percentage. I mean, not higher amount, not percentage is the same, because if the value of gold and silver has increased, but that is only if it is gold and silver. But we have other assets too. So that means that the threshold for them has also increased.
Okay, yeah.
So now, if only when, so you're looking at it from that perspective. So you're combining the wealth together and looking at it. So that means that before it becomes zakatable, you have to reach higher threshold. So there is a balancing effect. Okay.
Do you have, I wonder if I'm speaking out of turn, but do you have Zakat advisors? Because it seems to me that that might be a good thing to be in at this particular time of year. But it's hard. It's not easy to work.
In fact, there are, but it's not too difficult either. You know, it's only, I think, for an average Muslim, it is not too difficult to educate themselves. It's just that we think of it such a holy thing, and we think, oh, we may make a mistake and this and that, and we might be sinful. We don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
But it's not that hard. And having said that, there are, the Zakat Fund of UAE has an online calculator. We can use that. Just input the data.
Okay.
And you get what you want. Well, so then you will not be you will be sure that you are now counting on someone else's and authorities, guidance here. Similarly, there are other Islamic finance, it is called, I think, something like it. There are other calculators as well. We can use those. But in terms of the other common mistakes we make is that we forget the business inventory. If something's sitting in the inventory, that should also be counted as well. It is there, sitting there.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other point, very important point, that we don't look at our short-term liabilities and short-term assets or receivables and payables.
Okay.
Now, bear in mind, when today, if I calculate my zakat obligation, I have 12 months, lunar months, between now and the next, in which I must distribute the zakat. Okay? So in this period, I will also have certain obligations to pay. And in this period, I will have some expected income which will realize as well. Okay? So when we calculate zakatable assets, we must add what we expect to receive within next 12 months. That is also my zakatable income or wealth.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have 12 months of mortgage to pay. I mean, I have a 20 years mortgage, but I have 12 months. In this 12 months, I have certain payments to make. I have rents to pay and stuff like it. So I must deduct that as well.
Okay.
So it is with reference to that. So that's also another mistake we tend to make in the zakat calculation. And as I said, don't wait just for Ramadan. Make sure that you are meeting your lunar, obligation.
We've got a minute left. Have I missed anything that is important to point out?
Yes. One thing which I would like to talk about very quickly. While primarily it's distributive in nature, we distribute zakat. But contemporary scholars, and I have been for the last 2 decades been engaged, I've been trying to promote that as well and working with scholars. Contemporary scholars have allowed, with certain conditions, investment of zakat.
Now, that's something I'd made a note of, actually. I'm glad you brought that up.
Now, why I'm saying that is because while the 8 categories of zakat are just for Muslims, and they apparently for more for consumption purpose. But, and the other method I said was that if you don't want to pay zakat, then you as the original owner invest it first. But the other mechanism of investment is that make them the owners, but on their behalf, invest it. Now, when you invest, now you open up for everyone, Muslims, non-Muslims alike, people, planet, earth, name it. You can go anywhere. So zakat can go far beyond that. And contemporary scholars have allowed for that to be considered in the contemporary world. And this is actually an avenue. One quick mention, the different estimates, the potential of zakat could be around $200 billion a year. Imagine if we are investing it.
Imagine how much more good that could
we
do.
can create.
Okay.
So that is what I would like to say, that we need to think of zakat beyond just an obligation and a worship. It is, but it has deeper meaning to it.
There are far wider-ranging implications,
Indeed,
I guess.
indeed.
Dr. Adnan Aziz is an Islamic economics and finance professional. Just let me wish you Ramadan Mubarak, by the way, as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I appreciate you coming in, and I hope have a great month.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's Mirror Business FM.